I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting of the Board of Finance, a special meeting today, Tuesday, August 14th. Let us speak up. So call to order the meeting. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda, public comments. Not hearing any. Going to the minutes of the regular meeting of July 10th and the special meeting of July 26th. We'll have to go through those minutes individually again because we had different participants at the meeting. First, let's begin with the July 10th minutes. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All right. Brian, you were absent for that one?
For which one? The 10th.
The 10th? All right, so for the folks, the three folks who were here, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Moving on to the minutes of the special meeting for Thursday, July 26th, 2018. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right. Those against? Nay. Unanimous. Moving on to the next topic of the agenda, consideration of the capital non-recurring project recommendations from the Board of Selectmen. Matt?
Yes, thank you very much. You have before you a request for funding of another list of items from the capital list that was transferred from the capital budget to the operating budget under capital non-recurring during the budget process. These were approved by the Board of Selectmen a week ago today at their August 7th meeting. So there are 7 items. Now you'll notice that the first item says highway garage roof, $220,000 hold. The Board of Selectmen approved.
I'm sorry, but that's not on our copy either.
Right here.
Do I have a different version?
Dion would have given you a fresh version that I created this morning.
Right there, you got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sorry. My apologies.
Okay, no problem. The reason I'm not going to ask you to vote on that, even though the selectmen approved it, because there's some new information that we just got yesterday. A little cost increase that we don't have a firm number on yet, because this is basically a steel butt we're building, and there are trusses, iron trusses that hold up the roof. Some of them have been found to have cracked welds, so that's going to have to be repaired before the roof is done. The better news is that there is a company now that's going to be placing a bid that can potentially save a significant amount of money over the previous one. So before we move ahead with that, I'm not comfortable with the numbers because they're not firm. So I'm just going to ask you to hold on that.
Will the final bidder do both repair
Yeah.
the welds and the roof,
Sure.
so it's going to be combined?
Yeah, so we've got plenty of time, so at your next meeting, a month from now, we should be able to finalize that number. The other items, $65,000, not to exceed number for salt and sand shed repairs, $35,000 for the generator for the Spring Hill Communications Tower, $47,250 for the master plan for Park and Recreation. This is something we've been planning on doing for several years now, and I think it's a very valuable project. And then 3 items for the library, which really could go either way. It could be building maintenance. Bob and I have discussed this in future years. We're going to put in a line for maintenance for them that the library board can deal with. So the total request tonight is $157,975. The backup documentation is in order, attached to the request, so I would ask for your indulgence to pass that along, and we can get those projects underway.
We'll start by entertaining a motion to accept the proposal for capital non-recurring projects as recommended to the Board of Finance by the Board of Selectmen. seconded. Discussion.
What's the immediacy of all these projects? Are we looking to get started yet this summer?
Yeah, the generator, basically, we could have installed within a month, which is important because we are in the middle of hurricane season. The master plan for Park and Recreation, this is a very fortuitous time to do it because Mylona McBroom is currently working on the plan of conservation and development. So those two things are tied together. So rather than hire a company to do this as a one-off, this saves us about $20,000 to tack it on to the Mylona, to the POCD. Pressure washing the building, that can be done within a matter of weeks. You know, the repairs to the library. They're all lined up.
Does the highway garage roof need to be done before the bad weather comes?
Yeah, we still have time to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably a 30 to 60 day turnaround, so if we
Okay.
approve this in September at your regular meeting, we have plenty of time for that.
Okay, all right.
Have we received any bids on the salt sand truck repairs? Look it up.
We haven't put it out for a formal bid, we just have an estimate, but it's over 50,000, so it has to be advertised and we'll do bids. So you'll see that the lowest, there were two estimates that were previously given to Doug in the Public Works Department. He attached the lowest one, and the actual estimate was 57,000 and some. He put a contingency on there as a not to exceed number to make sure that, you know, they don't find any additional repairs, but that project will be put out to bid.
Did we approve money for that a couple of years ago? For
No.
We
No,
have
you-
anything with the Schultz shed?
No, you approved money for the highway garage roof and the structural repairs, but not the salt and sand shed. That kept getting kicked down the road.
So Matt, I'm sorry, in our package is a proposal, I assume, from Edward Kijik
Yeah,
on the salt shed.
yeah.
It comes to the 56,160. You mentioned perhaps that Doug added a little bit of contingency to that. Why was that proposal received? Why wasn't it as part of a bid project or bid process?
Well, that was done as an estimate back in the when we were preparing the budget. So we weren't in a position where we had funding to go out for a formal bid and spend money on that. So we got an estimate. And we think it's a pretty good estimate, but again, and he's given us an estimate and updated it every year for 3 years because we've had it on the list for a while. But we'll put out a formal bid, and then, you know, there may be other companies, when they see the ad and they know it's funded, they may respond to that.
And what are the repairs we're doing?
You have most of it on the sheet, but it's roofing, replacing rotted siding, improving some of the water runoff, you know, putting some drip, I would call it drip lips or whatever, to try to keep the water from running down the side of the shed, and then repainting it and sealing it to protect it from the elements.
Matt, is there a reason why we shouldn't just wait until the actual bids come in to kind of get a more definitive number?
Well, normally, well, yeah, I see where you're going with it. Normally, we're not allowed to spend money to put out a bid, you know, spend the $2,000 or whatever it is unless we know it's funded. I mean, that's the usual protocol. But it doesn't really matter because in a competitive bid, you know, the companies are going to try to outdo each other with the best possible price anyway. So any money, we're not going to exceed the bid amount when we accept a bid. And if that's below the 65,000, which it probably will be, that money just stays in the account. It's not used.
Matt, in the Mylona McBroom study, they have an additional $1,250 for out-of-pocket expenses for mileage and printing. They're suggesting that that's for reimbursement, our reimbursement of their direct out-of-pocket expenses.
I'm sorry?
In addition to the 47,250. It's on page 5. Schedule and fees,
I'm sorry, which page?
5.
5? That's inclusive of the 47. The 47,250 is the not to exceed number.
Okay.
Oh, underneath it, it says there's a 1,250 to cover out-of-pocket expenses such as mileage and printing. Right underneath the total.
So that would be in addition to the 47,250?
Okay.
Is that how we're supposed to read that? That's your point, right?
That's my question, yes.
I had assumed that that was part of it.
But I'm thinking that those, the printing, we could get only one copy of it and we could go out to get our
We could
own
print- we
cost
could-
of print, additional copies.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking the mileage, they're already done a lot of this work with the plan of development of looking at facilities and meeting with staff and driving the town, and they already have a map already done. So I don't foresee the mileage being, them needing any additional mileage.
You think that mileage was some part of their cost as opposed to something they're going to bill us for?
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
yeah. 'Cause
They've done most of their driving around, I'm assuming,
yeah,
because when I met with them for the plan of development, they already had maps and showed me where the parks were and stuff like that. So
Well,
that-
per Claudia's point, this is rather ambiguous, and, you know, I'd like to think that, that too, that
Right.
those costs are theirs, but maybe,
Right.
would it be possible just to have that clarified?
Right,
well, those are things that we can incorporate into our normal, you know,
Contract.
we have a budget for printing, for communications and stuff, so I wouldn't add it to the project cost.
Okay.
I would just stick with
We'll
it.
take that 47,250 as a not to exceed number.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
The only other comment I would make, and Matt, you touched on it, it seems to me that these items like pressure wash the building, exterior paint,
Mhm.
damaged siding, those are more in line of repairs and maintenance.
Mhm.
And I would think in the future, we would encourage the departments to put those in their operating budgets.
They will be. Yep.
So do these have to be done this year, or can we wait till next year? to do
No, they've
this?
been put off for several
They
years
have?
now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we shouldn't wait?
I wouldn't.
Okay, that's fine.
You know,
But it has rained a lot.
I'm surprised nobody's requesting a canoe.
You know, Bob and Brad are not here, but based on Brad's last presentation to us of the capital non-recurring account, there were some remaining unallocated dollars in 2016, a few in 2017, and then we have a big slug from 2018. Some of these items line up similar to these, so we'll have to meet with Bob and Brad just to see how to allocate these amounts, you know, so that we understand
Okay.
what layers they're coming from. But to your point, Claudia, you know, in some of these prior years, we had some library items that are very similar to this that just did not get done.
So then, yeah, you don't wanna wait then if they've been on the docket for years and years. Okay, got it. Okay, I wasn't aware.
All right, any further discussion? Assuming no, we've got a motion on the floor to accept the capital non-recurring project recommendation to the Board of Finance submitted by the Board of Selectmen in an amount not to exceed $157,975.
So moved?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or against? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Update on the building projects. Robert, that's the, kind of the update on what the building committee's been doing regarding the schools.
Yeah, they seem to be covering a lot of ground.
they have a whole new set of drawings, which came in on a cart upstairs, so they're up there, they're bigger than a couple tables here, for anybody to peruse. So it's an awesome piece of work, and so they replaced a more preliminary set of drawings. And then Rizzo Construction is the construction manager risk, and they're developing the bid documents for all the construction schedules. So we're at that point to start putting everything together in a bigger master plan. The commissioning agent has been hired, and that person will be responsible for making sure all systems within the building will be functioning as we expect them to be. So they'll own that responsibility. And then the last meeting I talked about the controversy of the owner's representative.
Yeah.
So we have about 4 bids for owner's representatives from firms. And it's interesting how widely varied the number of hours the estimators said that an owner's rep needed to be there. So there's a little bit of a huge swing there, which for some of the low bids, because they had fewer hours, is a little questioning. I mean, we question why that is. The more credible estimates seem to be more in line, and I think the amount usually came to be about $140 per hour, and the bids were somewhere in that. Might remember about the 20.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
Yeah,
from the bids,
yeah,
but I don't,
They were a couple $100,000. So.
yeah.
So it's a significant investment
Okay.
to have this, but because of the size of this project, as we talked about before, and the lack of having someone on site to keep things going and on track and approve any change orders, it's deemed that we really need to have this person. So that has not been finalized, but the bids are being looked at in depth so that we can move forward on that.
Is there a time frame for when they want that person or a group of people like ready to roll?
Yes.
They-
And pretty much in September, yeah.
Oh, so next month they want to
Yeah,
get.
They want to get
Okay.
things rolling.
Okay.
There has been a lot of time spent on the hazardous materials, and I think we talked about that before, about the polybicarbonates and the usage in the site. And that still is area of risk, financial risk. Again, what happens if they use different types of mastics and say putting a window in, and there's an exterior mastic and an interior mastic, and they're made of different materials. If they have PCBs in them in this window, and that's found, what about that window? And what about that window and that window? And so how much of a risk, because we don't want to be looking for problems and looking for expenses in order to remediate this. And yet you do have to have a good reason why you're not looking further. Because of, if it's deemed a health hazard, then, why aren't you looking everywhere? So it's, anytime you have a rehab like this project is, you run into these problems is how far do you look and where do you stop looking so that, this is the job and that's outside the scope of the job.
So who makes that determination?
Well, no one really wants to.
Yeah,
But-
okay.
But, we have professionals there to guide us on this and have experience in this. And, they know that this kind of thing happens every time they come across this type of project. And we more or less have to put our faith in them in order to manage this. But it's a very tricky situation. And, there's no one on the building commission who wants to take responsibility saying yes, no, yes, no.
Right.
So we have to kind of rely on the professionals to guide us on that. So, you know, it's a tricky little path to go down, but there's no other way unless you tear the whole damn thing down and start from scratch. It's
Right,
just,
okay.
you know, you gotta go ahead and do it.
And Robert, given our kind of view into it and our interest in it, I take it at this point, no indications of additional financial costs.
Well,
All cheap.
again, I'm stating this way because this is a risk, and it's unmeasured risk. You don't want to inspect everything now because you could have a huge financial risk.
My understanding, again, you know, it's a little bit aged, but my understanding is those kinds of studies are pretty common. It's a
Very
very
common, yeah.
standard approach, a standard required step to the renovation. Again, from our standpoint, right, when we're focusing on the finances of it, we're really just focusing on whether they seem to have identified a specific issue.
Yeah, nothing specific, but, you know, I just throw this out here, it's an unknown, and from the conversation I've heard is there's no real good way to assess what that situation could be. And unless, you know, just have to attack it at a very micro level in order to kind of keep it contained. You've been there, I think, with the
Oh, yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
Are there any other areas that would be financial risks that we should kind of start thinking about, or is it, again, kind of too soon, things are moving forward and continue to stay up to date?
You know, all the estimates are value engineering, so now we're moving to that next phase where we're actually, you know, getting all the actual bids and making sure that the bid specs are complete, going out and doing that. So, you know, until you start getting the actual bids, you can see whether the value engineering was on or off, you know, you don't know. So we're moving towards that.
Okay, good deal. And is it still the expectation to put a shovel in sometime later this year?
Yeah, it's still a goal, but, you know,
No, understood, but,
yeah,
yeah, that marker hasn't been moved just yet.
right.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, moving on then to the final agenda item, the discussion of the budget process. There's a summary page in front of us. If you recall, what we just did last week, or excuse me, last meeting, was we did just some brainstorming. We put 10 items up on the flip chart. I had the takeaway to try to organize those items into some kind of consistent to-dos or suggestions. It seemed to me that those 10 items fell into two broad categories, either kind of year-long communication steps or steps which are more geared to the actual kind of depth of the budget process. In addition, a couple of the suggestions seem to be very similar and or overlap, so I combine them for purposes here. All I would ask to do is for folks to kind of look at these, see if they agree with the groupings, agree with the descriptions. I really just tried to take it almost verbatim from what we did at the last meeting. And then the next meeting will just conclude as to whether or not we think these are the things that we want to try to follow up on. Some of them I think are relatively simple. I've talked to Matt about it. For example, the year-long communication category, add in it two simple suggestions. One where the Board of Selectmen minutes would be distributed to the Board of Finance, and Dion, you've been kind enough to already start that process. In addition, on a quarterly basis, I'd make a presentation to the Board of Selectmen for financial update. Kind of just very simple steps. That's really all I thought we needed to do on this today. Again, Brian, I know you weren't here for that meeting. You probably watched the video. You can kind of give it a look over and let us know what you think as far as groupings. That was it. If no other topics of discussion, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
What is the date of our next meeting? So is it, I have to look, like the 11th, something like that probably?
I can tell you.
The 11th.
11th, September 11th.
Okay, all right.